So this might be the worst video on modes ever. One, because I'm not a guitar player. I'm a bass player, but I do keep a guitar for writing purposes. Just I'm more comfortable on a guitar than I am on a piano. Yeah, so anyways, I want to talk about modes and what the deal is with modes, why you may or may not want to know about them. You may have heard people say, "Oh, I was playing this this Dorian lick." And you might be like, "Oh, what's that?" It's a Dorian. Dorian's a second mode there. Yeah. Or somebody might say, "Oh, I'm just, the point is, it's a way of quickly communicating a set of basically a unique scale, which can then be broken apart into to build chords and whatnot. So I wanna quickly go through the modes, how you find the modes first of all, and lastly I might talk a little bit about how you might use this knowledge. But I'm just going to start with showing you what modes are and how modes are built, the traditional modes and that. So I'm assuming anybody watching this knows what the major scale is, and I'm going to stay in the key of G for illustration purposes, just because I think it's easy to see here. So there's 7 modes. There's a mode for each interval of the major scale. So an interval is one of the notes basically. So here's your first, your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, your sixth, your seventh, and your 8th interval, right? So that's your typical major scale. It's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That should be pretty familiar most. So that's its own scale. It's a pretty powerful scale. We hear it all the time in Western music. So what are the modes then? Okay, well, this is actually the first. So that major scale is actually the first. It's also the first mode of the major scale. It's called the Ionian mode, and don't worry about the names. What's more important is that you memorize the scale shape itself and what it consists of. For example, if you were to build a chord off of it, you're going to get a major chord, or you're going to get a major 7th chord, major 7, big 6 chord, big 6, 9. So it's got that sound, okay? So what about the rest of the modes? I want to talk about the second mode now. The way you find the second mode is you basically play the major scale. So we're in the key of G. We're going to start the majors follow that same pattern, but we're going to start on the 2nd interval and end on the 9th interval. You'll see here. So we skip 1, so we go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that becomes its own unique scale, in that it's if I was to play it, you may see it played like this. Sorry. Just another way of playing. There's lots of different ways to play it, but that has its own sound, and you end up getting a minor chord out of that. You know, a minor ninth. It's got a big 6 in it too. Which can sound a little blue. But it's got its own thing, and that's the second mode. It's called the Dorian mode. Third mode would be same approach. We take that. We just basically play starting on the third interval of that G major scale that we played, and we play from the third all the way up to the 10th. So it has its own sound. Almost sounds Spanish. Here's another way of playing it. It's actually the same, just shifted up. But yeah. So that's got a again, that's so if you build chords off that, you get a minor chord. It's got a flat 9, which is can be kind of out there. It's yeah, it's got kind of a Spanish feel to it. So that's the third mode. It's called Phrygian mode. And correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty sure that's what it's called. Then we have the fourth mode, which starts on the fourth interval of that first major scale. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to go from the fourth up to the 11th. And so that looks a lot like a major scale. The only difference is it has this raised 4 in it. So and you will get playing here. You get a major. You get major 7s, major 7 9, major 7, major 7 sharp 11. It's a beautiful chord. It's a beautiful sounding mode. It's a little lighter and airier. I don't know how else to describe it compared to your major, typical major scale Ionian mode. And that's the fourth mode. So yeah. So each of these modes, I'm basically just playing through the major scale, and I'm just following the major scale pattern, but I'm starting on each interval and going up to its octave. So I just did the fourth. I'm gonna do the fifth now. It's called the Mixolydian, and it goes like this. Sorry. And I could play that same scale here, obviously with a different fingering. And it's basically exactly like the major scale, except it has a flat 7. And you will get your typical Hear that all the time in jazz and pop music. And that, yeah, that's the Mixolydian. The sixth mode is called the Aeolian mode. So I'm going back to G here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll start here and continue that major scale up. Sorry. Like I said, I'm a bass player. So that's got a, it's quite a lot different from the major. It's got a minor third, a minor sixth, and a minor seventh interval in its own construction there. You know, on the E string, it would look like this. Right? Or up here you might play it like off the 7th fret, you might play it like this. And it's got a very, it's a natural minor. That's your typical E minor open chord. It's got a minor 6, so it's got some it's pretty heavily used chord. So that's the 6th mode, Aeolian, and then the last is the 7th. It's called the Locrian mode, and it goes like this. I'm going to start here off the 7th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it starts like here. And that's got kind of a, that's pretty dark sounding, pretty unsettled. Yeah, Locrian. So you might play that like, I'll play this, let's say, I'll play it here, off the F sharp here. And it's got, it actually creates a diminished chord when you build it. When you play off the thirds there, I guess you could play it like that. I'm sure there's easier ways to play that, but it's got that kind of suspenseful, you know, it wants to resolve to something. And that's all the modes. That was 15 minutes, and I know that that's a lot to digest. But so how would you, like, why would you care? Well, one of the things that's useful about knowing what the different modes are is that it opens up your ears to different sounds that may not be, you know, I think it's good for training your ears to hear like different melodic ideas. What's good about these is, you know, you can figure out, okay, well, if I know all of these modes, then I know that you know, 3 of those modes will yield minor scales, which means if somebody's playing, you know, let's say a D minor, well, it gives you some options of what flavor of, or what kind of minor scales could you play over, or minor modes could you play over it. So in that case, someone who's playing an A minor, you know, you could play a Dorian, you could play a Phrygian, you could even play Aeolian, and you might even play a Locrian. It's and so you've got different tools, different melodic tools to play over, you know, your different chords. Likewise with the major, if I was playing an A major, you've got some options. You've got, you know, obviously your Ionian mode, which is your major scale, or the Lydian, you could argue you could play the 5th even. That one's gonna add some tension though, for sure. Especially if it's that one's gonna obviously want to resolve. But depending on the song, you know, sometimes the chord center can be, you know, something like the Mixolydian mode. In Indian music, you hear it a lot. And lots of blues, and even you know, soul music and whatnot. You'll hear that get used. Hip hop. Anyways, so yeah, that's the modes. Good to know. Good to open up your ears to different sounds, different melodic sounds, and I think what's interesting about learning these modes is it also helps open up, you know, for guitar or anybody really, is like it forces you to think about, you know, what kinds of things, what kinds of scales might you substitute in place of other scales, or chords for that matter. So knowing the modal system, you know, allows you to play across a handful of modes and still be inside or related to the chord you're playing over. A good example of that could be a classic, you know, relative minor. Somebody who's playing in G major, you know, you might noodle around in G major, or you might use that 6th mode and play an E minor over top of the G. So they work. Or you can step across them, you know, to create some tension inside the, you know, if there's a chord that goes, you know, over and over and over again, you can kind of maybe move in and out of some different modes to kind of create some interest. Anyways, I don't know if that thoroughly confused you or not. Like I said, it's probably the worst modes video on YouTube. Anyways, I hope it was maybe insightful for some people. Okay,